As their hands clasped, Marcus felt a strange electric tingle that he was pretty sure had nothing to do with alien technology. He was either about to save the world through the power of mundane daily life, or he was about to utterly humiliate himself in front of a cosmic princess. Either way, tomorrow was definitely going to be interesting. The next morning arrived with the persistence of Arizona sunshine and the jarring sound of Marcus's alarm clock, an ancient digital model that had been annoying him awake for the past 3 years, but was too reliable to replace. He rolled over, momentarily disoriented by the sight of his guest. Princess Zara sat cross-legged on his floor in what appeared to be a meditative pose, her back perfectly straight, her breathing deep and measured. At some point during the night, she had activated her adaptive camouflage technology, transforming her ceremonial armor into what looked like a perfectly normal business suit: navy blue blazer, white blouse, and dark slacks that somehow managed to accommodate her impressive height and build. "Good morning," she said without opening her eyes. "I trust you slept adequately." Marcus sat up, running a hand through his hair. "Did you sleep at all?" "Nexarians require less rest than humans. I spent the night reviewing your planet's cultural databases and preparing for today's trial." "Cultural databases?" Princess Zara opened her eyes and gestured to his laptop, which was somehow still open despite Marcus being certain he'd closed it before going to bed. "Your information networks are remarkably comprehensive. I have been studying human social interactions, workplace hierarchies, and economic systems." Marcus stumbled to his feet, still groggy. "Please tell me you didn't hack into anything important." "I accessed only publicly available information. Though I must say, your species' approach to labor relations is fascinatingly primitive." "Thanks, I think." Marcus shuffled toward his tiny bathroom. "I'll grab a quick shower and then we can head out. Fair warning, my job isn't exactly glamorous." "I am prepared for any challenge." 20 minutes later, Marcus emerged to find Princess Zara examining his coffee maker with the intensity of a scientist studying alien technology, which, he supposed, from her perspective it probably was. "This device produces the stimulant beverage you consumed yesterday?" she asked. "Coffee, yeah, want some? Fair warning, it's probably going to taste terrible compared to whatever you're used to." "I will adapt." Marcus prepared 2 cups, adding extra sugar to Zara's in hopes of making it more palatable. As he handed her the mug, he noticed her studying the faded Detroit Lions logo on his shirt. "This symbol represents your tribal affiliation?" she asked. "Football team, there. Not very good, but you stick with your team, you know." Princess Zara nodded solemnly. "Loyalty despite adversity. This is an admirable quality." "That's one way to put it." They finished their coffee in companionable silence, and Marcus found himself stealing glances at his alien guest. The camouflage technology was impressive. She looked entirely human, albeit strikingly beautiful in a way that might attract attention. Her silver eyes had shifted to a more ordinary blue, and her purple skin now appeared to be a warm olive tone that suggested Mediterranean heritage. "Ready to see how the other half lives?" Marcus asked, grabbing his keys and work bag. "I am prepared for whatever trials await." The first trial came in the form of Marcus's car, a 15-year-old Honda Civic with a questionable transmission and air conditioning that worked only when it felt like it. As they climbed into the vehicle, Princess Zara examined the worn interior with polite curiosity. "This transportation device appears to be in suboptimal condition," she observed as Marcus coaxed the engine to life. "Welcome to the working-class experience," Marcus replied, pulling out of his apartment complex's parking lot. "Most of us make do with what we can afford." As they drove through Phoenix morning traffic, Marcus pointed out various aspects of human urban existence: strip malls, fast food restaurants, billboard advertisements, construction zones that seemed to have been ongoing since the dawn of time. Your cities appear to prioritize commercial efficiency over aesthetic considerations, Princess Zara noted. Pretty much, though some neighborhoods are nicer than others, this isn't exactly the upscale part of town. Princess Zara absorbed this information with the focused attention of someone conducting an anthropological study. Marcus found himself appreciating her genuine curiosity about aspects of human life that most people took for granted. They arrived at Rodriguez Water Systems, a small company that specialized in municipal water treatment and residential plumbing services. The building was a converted warehouse in an industrial area that smelled perpetually of hot asphalt and automotive exhaust. "Here we are," Marcus announced, pulling into the employee parking lot. "Home away from home." Inside the building, they were greeted by the familiar chaos of a small business trying to do too much with too few resources. Phones rang incessantly. Workers moved with the purposeful urgency of people running behind schedule. And somewhere in the back, a piece of machinery made an alarming grinding sound that everyone was pretending not to hear. Rodriguez. The voice belonged to Dave Hutchinson, Marcus's supervisor and the human embodiment of workplace frustration. Dave was in his 50s, permanently red-faced and possessed of the remarkable ability to find fault with anything and everything. "You're 3 minutes late." Marcus checked his watch. "It's 7:57, Dave. I'm not supposed to be here until 8. Early is on time is late, and late is fired. How many times do I have to explain this concept?" Dave's attention shifted to Princess Zara. "And who's this? We don't allow visitors on the work floor." "This is Zara Mendoza," Marcus said, using the cover identity they discussed during the drive. "She's doing a job shadowing assignment for the community college. I'm supposed to show her around today." Dave's expression soured further. "Nobody told me about any job shadowing. I don't have time to babysit college kids who probably think they're too good for real work." Marcus felt a familiar knot of tension form in his stomach. Dave's casual hostility was nothing new, but having Princess Zara witness, it added an extra layer of humiliation to the usual routine. "It'll be fine, Dave. She'll just observe, won't get in anyone's way." "She better not. We've got the Morrison installation starting today, and if anything goes wrong because you're distracted playing tour guide, it's coming out of your paycheck." Dave stomped away, muttering under his breath about the declining work ethic of younger generations. Marcus turned to Princess Zara, expecting to see shock or indignation at the hostile reception. Instead, her expression was thoughtful, analytical. "That individual holds authority over you?" she asked quietly. "Unfortunately, yeah. Dave's what we call a middle manager. He's got just enough power to make life difficult but not enough to actually improve anything. And you must tolerate his behavior to maintain your employment." "Pretty much. Jobs like this aren't exactly easy to come by, especially without a college degree that some people take seriously." Princess Zara nodded slowly. "I see. This is a form of social combat, navigating hostile authority structures while maintaining your position." "That's actually not a bad way to put it." Marcus led her through the warehouse, explaining the various aspects of the water treatment business while trying to ignore Dave's continued glowering from across the room. They were interrupted by Janet from the front office, a middle-aged woman who served as secretary, receptionist, and general keeper of company sanity. "Marcus, thank God you're here," Janet said, hurrying over with a clipboard and an expression of barely controlled panic. "The Morrison job just got complicated. The permits got held up, the delivery truck broke down, and Mrs. Morrison has been calling every 10 minutes demanding to know why we're not there yet." Marcus felt his heart sink. The Morrison installation was a big contract, a complete water filtration system for a new office building downtown. If they screwed it up, Rodriguez Water Systems could lose a lot more than just one customer. "What about the backup truck?" Marcus asked. In the shop, won't be ready until Friday at the earliest. And the permits? City says maybe this afternoon, maybe tomorrow morning. Depends on how backed up they are. Marcus rubbed his forehead, feeling the familiar weight of problems that seemed to have no good solutions. Okay, let me think. We could rent a truck, but that'll eat into the profit margin. And if the permits don't come through, I could try calling my contact at the city, Janet suggested. But you know how that usually goes. Marcus was acutely aware of Princess Zara watching this exchange with intense focus. Here was the reality of human conflict, not the dramatic battles of movies and television, but the grinding daily challenge of solving problems with insufficient resources and no clear path to victory. Call your contact, Marcus decided. See if there's any way to expedite the permits. I'll look into truck rental options and figure out how to make the numbers work. Janet nodded and hurried away, leaving Marcus and Princess Zara standing amid the organized chaos of the warehouse. This is the nature of your daily challenges, Princess Zara asked. Welcome to the glamorous world of water pipe engineering, Marcus replied. Every day brings a new crisis that needs to be solved with creativity, persistence, and usually very little money. And if you fail to resolve these challenges, people lose their jobs, the company goes under, customers don't get the services they need. Marcus shrugged. The stakes might not seem cosmic, but they're real enough to the people involved. Princess Zara was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Among my people, leadership is demonstrated through decisive action in clear conflict scenarios. But here, the conflicts are complex, ongoing, and often have no ideal resolution. That's human existence in a nutshell, Marcus agreed. We spend most of our time trying to find the least bad option among a bunch of bad options. Before Princess Zara could respond, Dave reappeared with a fresh supply of grievances. Rodriguez, stop chatting and get moving. I need you to drive out to the Morrison site and smooth things over with the customer. Take your little shadow here if you want, but if this job falls apart because you're playing career counselor, you'll be looking for a new job by Monday. Marcus felt the familiar surge of anger that came with Dave's casual threats and dismissive attitude. In the past, he would have just swallowed his frustration and done what he was told. But having Princess Zara as a witness somehow changed the dynamic. Marcus Rodriguez had always prided himself on being adaptable. Growing up in Detroit, moving through 3 different foster homes, and eventually earning his engineering degree through night school, while working double shifts at the auto plant had taught him that survival meant rolling with whatever life threw at him. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the day an 8-foot-tall purple alien materialized in his apartment demanding single combat. It started like any other Tuesday morning. Marcus was hunched over his kitchen table, nursing his 3rd cup of coffee while reviewing blueprints for the new water filtration system his company was installing in downtown Phoenix. The September heat was already creeping through his poorly insulated windows, and the ancient air conditioning unit wheezed like an old dog. He'd been living in this cramped studio for 2 years now, saving every penny to eventually buy something decent, maybe even with a spare bedroom he could turn into a proper workshop. The first sign something was wrong came when his coffee mug started vibrating against the table. Marcus looked up from his papers, frowning. Arizona didn't get earthquakes, at least not the kind that rattled dishes. The vibration grew stronger, accompanied by a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The fluorescent light above his head flickered, casting strange shadows across his blueprints. Then his living room exploded in brilliant blue light. Marcus dove behind his couch, years of street instincts kicking in. The light pulsed 3 times, each flash brighter than the last, before fading to reveal a figure standing in the center of his apartment. Where his coffee table used to be, there was now a 7-foot-tall being that looked like someone had crossed a professional bodybuilder with an exotic dancer, and then dunked the result in purple paint. The alien, because what else could it be, stood with perfect military posture, adorned in what appeared to be ceremonial armor that gleamed like liquid mercury. Intricate patterns were etched into the metal, and a flowing cape hung from broad shoulders. But it was the face that made Marcus's breath catch. Despite the distinctly non-human features, pointed ears, larger eyes, and skin the color of amethyst, there was something unmistakably feminine and strikingly beautiful about the being before him. Human, the alien spoke, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed instantly. I am Princess Zara of the Nexarian Empire, heir to the Crimson Throne, commander of the Third Fleet and keeper of the Sacred Flame. You have been chosen. Marcus slowly rose from behind his couch, hands raised in what he hoped was a universal gesture of non-aggression. Chosen for what exactly? And chosen by who? Princess Zara's eyes, a startling shade of silver, narrowed as she studied him. Marcus could practically feel her gaze cataloging every detail, from his worn jeans and faded Detroit Lions t-shirt to the 3-day stubble he hadn't bothered shaving. Whatever she was looking for, he was pretty sure he didn't have it. The Cosmic Council has decreed that your species possesses certain qualities that make you suitable candidates for the trial of worthiness. I have traveled 17 parsecs to issue this challenge, human. Do not insult me with ignorance. Trial of what now? Marcus rubbed his temples, wondering if someone had spiked his coffee with something stronger than caffeine. Look, Princess, Zara was it? I think there's been some kind of mistake. I'm just an engineer. I design water pipes and occasionally fix broken pumps. I'm not exactly what you'd call trial-worthy material. The princess's expression shifted from imperious to something approaching confusion. She tilted her head, studying Marcus with the intensity of a scientist examining a particularly puzzling specimen. You are Marcus Rodriguez, are you not? Born in the settlement of Detroit, orphaned at age 7, survivor of multiple adversities, graduate of the Michigan Institute of Technology. Marcus blinked. How do you know all that? The Council's research is thorough. Your psychological profile indicates resilience, creativity under pressure, and an unusual capacity for emotional intelligence. These traits are rare among your species. Thanks, I think. Marcus lowered his hands but remained ready to dive for cover if necessary. So what exactly is this trial supposed to involve? Princess Zara straightened to her full height, which Marcus now realized was closer to 8 feet. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of ancient tradition. By the laws of my people, I must face a champion in single combat before I can ascend to the throne. The warrior who defeats me will be granted the right to claim my hand in marriage and rule beside me as Emperor of the Nexarian Empire. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. And you picked me for this, why? Your species has proven formidable in combat scenarios. The Council believes humans possess warrior instincts that could provide an adequate challenge. Right, Marcus nodded slowly, his mind racing. So just to be clear, you want to fight me, and if I win, I have to marry you and become emperor of an alien empire. That is correct. And if you win? Princess Zara's expression grew darker. If I win, I return to Nexaria and inform the Council that your species is unworthy of further consideration. Your planet will be marked as off-limits for future trials. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with his struggling air conditioner. What happens to planets that get marked off-limits? They are typically left to develop in isolation until they achieve sufficient technological advancement to join the galactic community. This process usually takes several thousand years. Several thousand years, Marcus repeated flatly. Perhaps more. Your species is particularly primitive. Marcus looked around his small apartment, taking in the water-stained ceiling, the stack of unpaid bills on his counter, and the framed photo of his foster sister's kids that was the only decoration he'd bothered with. 2 hours ago, His biggest worry had been whether he could afford to replace his car's transmission. Now, he was apparently Earth's representative in some kind of cosmic marriage tournament. "Okay," he said finally. "Hypothetically speaking, what kind of combat are we talking about here? Swords, guns, wrestling? Because I should probably mention that my fight experience is pretty much limited to a few bar scuffles, and that one time I had to chase a raccoon out of my garage with a broom." Princess Zara reached behind her back and produced what looked like a cross between a sword and a lightning bolt. The weapon hummed with energy, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Traditional Nexarian combat utilizes energy blades. The duel continues until one combatant yields or is rendered unable to continue. "Unable to continue," Marcus echoed. "You mean unconscious or dead, though death is considered poor form unless the challenger proves exceptionally stubborn." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. "And I'm supposed to fight you with what, exactly? I've got a pretty decent set of socket wrenches and a baseball bat I bought at a garage sale." For the first time since her dramatic entrance, Princess Zara looked uncertain. She glanced around the apartment, taking in the modest furnishings and complete lack of anything resembling a weapon. The council's briefing indicated that human dwellings typically contained extensive armories. "Yeah, that's not really accurate, at least not for most of us." Marcus gestured helplessly at his surroundings. "This is pretty much what a standard human living situation looks like." Princess Zara's brow furrowed, an expression that somehow managed to be both adorable and terrifying on her alien features. "But the historical records show humans engaging in constant warfare, wielding advanced weapons technology." "Well, sure, some humans, but most of us are just trying to pay rent and avoid getting fired. The closest thing I have to advanced weapons technology is a power drill, and I'm not even sure it's charged." The princess lowered her energy blade, confusion evident in her silver eyes. "This is unexpected. The council was quite specific about the nature of human combat readiness." Marcus found himself relaxing slightly as he watched this powerful alien warrior grapple with the reality of suburban life. "Yeah, I'm guessing whoever did your research might have been watching a little too much of our entertainment media. Movies and TV shows aren't exactly documentaries." Entertainment media. Fiction, made-up stories. We create them for fun, but they don't really reflect how most people actually live. Princess Zara stared at him in silence for nearly a full minute. When she finally spoke, her voice had lost some of its imperial authority. "Are you saying that the majority of your species does not regularly engage in combat scenarios?" "Pretty much, yeah. Most of us go our whole lives without ever being in a real fight. We have people who specialize in that stuff: soldiers, police officers, martial artists. But your average person just wants to go to work, hang out with friends, maybe binge-watch some shows on weekends." The princess began packing Marcus's small living room, her cape swirling dramatically with each turn. "This is highly irregular. The trial of worthiness requires a combat-capable opponent. If you are not a warrior, then what happens?" Princess Zara stopped packing and fixed him with an intense stare. "I am not certain. This scenario was not covered in my pre-mission briefing." Marcus rubbed his forehead, feeling the beginning of what promised to be an epic headache. "Okay, let me think about this. You need to fight someone to prove you're worthy of being queen, right? Empress, and yes, that is the fundamental requirement. And it has to be a human." The council was quite specific on that point. "But it doesn't necessarily have to be me, specifically." Princess Zara considered this. "The coordinates led me to this location, to you specifically. However, I suppose if there were another suitable candidate nearby." Marcus thought about his neighbors. There was Mrs. Patterson in 2B, who was 73 and spent most of her time knitting. The college kids in 3A who lived on energy drinks and video games. The mysterious guy in 1C who might or might not be running some kind of illegal business out of his apartment, but seemed to subsist entirely on delivered pizza. Yeah, I'm probably your best bet in this building, Marcus admitted, which isn't saying much. Princess Zara resumed her packing, muttering what Marcus assumed were curse words in her native language. The frustrated alien princess stalking around his living room was surreal enough, but what really struck him was how young she looked despite her imposing presence. There was something almost vulnerable about her confusion, a crack in the imperial facade that revealed someone who was probably just as lost as he was. "How old are you?" Marcus asked suddenly. Princess Zara stopped packing. "What relevance does that have to our current situation?" "Just curious. You seem pretty young to be taking on the responsibility of ruling an entire empire." "I am 23 years old by your planetary cycles. Among my people, this is considered the appropriate age for the trial of worthiness." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. 23. Just a kid, really, despite her alien heritage and royal status. He thought about himself at that age, scared, angry, working 2 jobs just to keep his head above water, with no one to rely on but himself. "That's a lot of pressure," he said quietly. Princess Zara's expression softened slightly. "The responsibilities of leadership are not meant to be comfortable." "Maybe not, but that doesn't mean you have to face them alone." Something in his tone must have surprised her, because she turned to face him fully, studying his expression with those remarkable silver eyes. "You speak as one who understands burden." Marcus shrugged. "Different kind of burden, maybe. But yeah, I get what it's like to feel like everything's riding on your shoulders." They stood in silence for a moment, human and alien, both carrying weights that seemed too heavy for anyone to bear alone. Outside, the Phoenix traffic hummed its usual tune, and somewhere in the building, someone was playing music too loudly. Normal life continuing obliviously while the fate of Earth apparently hung in the balance in a crappy studio apartment. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked finally. Princess Zara squared her shoulders, the imperial mask sliding back into place. "Now we determine how to proceed with a trial that cannot proceed as planned." Marcus looked at this alien princess, this young woman who had traveled across the galaxy to fulfill an obligation that might very well end with her marriage to a complete stranger, and made a decision that would change everything. "Maybe," he said slowly, "we don't have to follow the plan exactly as written." Princess Zara's response was immediate and sharp. "The laws of my people are not suggestions, human. They are sacred traditions that have governed the Nexarian Empire for over 3 millennia. I cannot simply ignore them because the circumstances are inconvenient." "I'm not suggesting you ignore them," Marcus said, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "I'm suggesting we find a creative interpretation." The princess's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Marcus began packing himself, his engineering mind automatically breaking down the problem into manageable components. "Okay, so the core requirement is that you face a champion in single combat, right? The trial has to prove your worthiness to rule." "Correct. But what makes someone worthy to rule? Is it just fighting ability?" Princess Zara opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, clearly considering the question more carefully than she had expected to. "The trial of worthiness is meant to demonstrate courage, strategic thinking, adaptability under pressure, and the strength to make difficult decisions." "Right, so combat is just one way to test those qualities, but there might be others." "The traditional form has probably worked great for your people," Marcus interrupted gently. "But I'm not one of your people. Maybe the test needs to be different for humans." Princess Zara resumed her packing, her cape swirling around her legs. Marcus found himself oddly mesmerized by the graceful way she moved, like a dancer who happened to be built like a linebacker. The council was very specific about the combat requirement. Was the council specific about what kind of combat? Energy blade dueling is the traditional. She stopped mid-sentence, silver eyes sharpening. You are suggesting an alternative form of combat. I'm suggesting that maybe combat means something different to humans than it does to Nexarians. Marcus moved to his kitchen, opening the refrigerator and pulling out 2 bottles of water. He tossed one to Princess Zara, who caught it with reflexes that confirmed she was probably capable of turning him into a very small smear on the wall if she wanted to. Human conflict resolution is complicated, he continued, twisting open his bottle. Sure, sometimes we fight with weapons, but a lot of the time our biggest battles are emotional, psychological, social. We fight poverty, injustice, loneliness, fear. We fight our own limitations and expectations. Princess Zara examined the water bottle with curiosity before managing to open it. These are not the kinds of conflicts that can be won or lost in any meaningful sense. Aren't they? Marcus settled onto his couch, gesturing for her to take the chair across from him. After a moment's hesitation, she sat, though she perched on the edge as if ready to spring into action at any moment. I grew up in foster care, bounced around different homes, different schools, never really belonging anywhere. When I was 17, I decided I wanted to be an engineer. Everyone told me I was crazy. Kids like me didn't go to college, didn't have careers, didn't make anything of themselves. But you succeeded. Yeah, but not the way you might think. I didn't succeed by proving everyone wrong through some dramatic confrontation. I succeeded by showing up, every day for years, working double shifts to pay for night classes, studying in break rooms and on bus rides, asking for help when I needed it, even though it felt like admitting defeat. Princess Zara took a cautious sip of water, her expression thoughtful. This required courage. More than I knew I had. And strategic thinking, figuring out how to balance work and school, which classes to take when, how to make connections in an industry where I didn't know anyone. And adaptability, God, every semester brought new challenges I hadn't planned for. And difficult decisions. Marcus smiled ruefully. Try choosing between buying textbooks and eating lunch for a week, or deciding whether to take out another student loan knowing you might not be able to pay it back. Princess Zara set down her water bottle and leaned forward slightly. You are saying that your educational achievement was a form of combat trial. I'm saying that humans fight battles every single day that don't involve weapons or physical confrontation. Some of the strongest people I know have never thrown a punch in their lives. But how does this resolve our current situation? I still require a trial that demonstrates my worthiness according to Nexarian law. Marcus was quiet for a moment, an idea forming in the back of his mind. What if we design a trial that tests all those qualities you mentioned: courage, strategy, adaptability, decision-making, but in a way that's meaningful for both our species? Such as, give me 24 hours, Marcus said suddenly. Let me show you what human conflict really looks like. Experience our challenges firsthand. If you can handle what I deal with on a regular Tuesday, then you've proven you can adapt to any situation your empire might throw at you. Princess Zara stared at him. You want me to live as a human for one day? Not just live as a human, live as me. Face the same problems I face, make the same kinds of decisions I have to make. No royal privileges, no advanced technology, no cosmic authority to fall back on. Just you, dealing with the reality of human existence. And if I fail this domestic trial? Marcus shrugged. Then I guess your counsel was right about humans being unworthy. But if you succeed, if you can navigate our world with the same grace and strength you'd show in battle, then you've proven something much more important than sword-fighting skills. Which is that you can lead anyone anywhere, under any circumstances. That you're not just a warrior princess, but someone who understands what it means to struggle and survive and keep going when everything seems stacked against you. Princess Zara stood and began packing again, but this time her movements seemed less agitated and more contemplative. This is highly irregular. The best solutions usually are. The council would be displeased by such a deviation from protocol. Would they be more displeased than if you returned home unmarried because Earth's champion turned out to be a water pipe engineer with no combat training? That stopped her cold. Princess Zara turned to face him, and for the first time since materializing in his living room, she looked genuinely uncertain. You raise a valid point. Besides, Marcus added, it's not like we're throwing out the trial completely. We're just adapting it to circumstances. Isn't adaptability one of those qualities you're supposed to be demonstrating? A smile, small but definitely there, tugged at the corner of Princess Zara's mouth. You argue like a diplomat. I argue like someone who's had to talk his way out of trouble more times than I can count. Princess Zara was quiet for a long moment, staring out Marcus's small window at the Phoenix skyline. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a note of something that might have been hope. What would this trial entail specifically? Marcus felt a surge of excitement as his plan began to crystallize. Well, first you'd have to figure out how to blend in. That armor and cape are going to attract some attention. Princess Zara looked down at her ceremonial outfit. I do possess adaptive camouflage technology. Great. Then we start with the basics, getting through a normal day. I've got to work tomorrow, so you'd come with me, see how humans actually spend their time. Deal with my boss, who's basically a tyrant in his own small kingdom. Handle workplace politics, equipment failures, difficult customers. These are the battles you fight. Among others. Then there's the fun stuff, grocery shopping on a budget, dealing with bureaucracy, navigating social situations where you don't know all the rules. Oh, and my landlord's been threatening to raise the rent, so there might be some actual conflict resolution involved. Princess Zara nodded slowly. And if I successfully navigate these domestic combat scenarios, then you've proven you can handle anything, and I'll formally acknowledge you as the winner of whatever kind of trial this is. And the marriage requirement. Marcus felt his cheeks grow warm. We'll, figure that part out as we go, one crisis at a time. Princess Zara studied his face with those penetrating silver eyes, and Marcus had the uncomfortable feeling that she was seeing things he hadn't meant to reveal. You are not afraid of me. Should I be? Most beings find my presence intimidating. Marcus considered this. You're definitely intimidating, but you're also clearly someone who's trying to do the right thing in a complicated situation. I can relate to that. And you believe this unconventional trial would satisfy the legal requirements of my succession. I think it would prove everything the traditional trial is supposed to prove, and probably a few things it doesn't. Princess Zara moved to the window, gazing out at the city sprawling beneath the desert sun. My people have very specific ideas about strength and leadership. Maybe it's time they learned that strength comes in different forms. She turned back to him, and Marcus saw something shift in her expression, a decision being made. Very well, Marcus Rodriguez of Detroit, I accept your alternative trial proposal. Marcus blinked, just like that. You present a compelling argument, and truthfully, she paused, looking almost embarrassed. The prospect of traditional combat held little appeal. I am skilled with energy blades, but I find no joy in violence. Then why didn't you object to the original plan? Because it was my duty. My people expect their leaders to be warriors above all else. Marcus stood and extended his hand. Maybe it's time to show them that being a leader is about more than just winning fights. Princess Zara looked at his outstretched hand for a moment before reaching out and grasping it firmly. Her skin was warm and surprisingly soft, though he could feel the strength in her grip. I accept your challenge, human. Show me what real combat looks like. As their hands clasped, Marcus felt a strange electric tingle that he was pretty sure had nothing to do with alien technology. He was either about to save the world through the power of mundane daily life, or he was about to utterly humiliate himself in front of a cosmic princess. Either way, tomorrow was definitely going to be interesting.